welcome to our third video. This one, of course, is about laying the risers, putting the plaster cloth on the risers, and putting down the roadbed. We mentioned before that this whole process starts with determining the track design, then tracing the track layout, pinning down the risers, gluing down the risers, gluing down the roadbed, and then finally do a test run to make sure everything's working. So we're going to start with this plaster cloth, putting it down over the risers, and there's different brands of plaster cloth out there. I happen to be a fan of Woodland Scenics, and so that's what we're going to use. And in order to lay the plastic cloth down on top of the risers, we're going to start with the plaster cloth, of course, the scissors, and some cold water in a container. We're just going to cut the piece of plaster cloth out. You'll notice on the cloth there's two sides, a smooth side and a bumpy side. You're going to want to, after you put the cloth in the water, when you bring it out, you're going to want to lay it so the bumpy side is up because that contains the most plaster. And we're just going to lay that cloth, once we've got it wet, right on top of the risers. Get it in the position that we want, and then you're just going to smooth it out with your fingers, which lays out all the plaster across the cloth. And we're just going to do this on all the different risers for the roadbed. Once we've gotten started, this is how it's going to start to look. You can see we have a lot of work to do yet. I'm working on the black line now, of course. This is the baseline of my first track. And for the black line, we're getting started putting the plaster cloth on the risers. They've obviously already been pinned down and glued down. And again, we just need we need a scissors, we need the plaster cloth, we need some cold water in a pan, and an adult beverage is always helpful. So now that we've got the plaster cloth down, we were able to lay the roadbed for the black line. And in a minute, you're going to see a more detailed demonstration of how to lay the roadbed. But this is what it's going to look like for the black line. And now that we have that down, we're going to want to lay our track back down on top of the roadbed and give it a test run just to make sure that the train is going to roll smoothly on the track, because you're still in a position where you can make adjustments if they're needed. So here's my test run. And typically what I do when I test run a train on track, I'll literally let it run for an hour. It'll just go around and around and around. The way I figure it is that if there's no derailments after an hour of constant running, you've got yourself a pretty smooth, level running track. And one other thing you'll notice is the first car that's behind the locomotive is a very long rail car. I purposely put that on because those long box cars, like this blue one that you see, if they're going to derail around a curve at all, now's the time for you to find out. So that's why I put that one on there. The way I look at it is, if the train can run at a medium speed on this track for an hour, and it's got that long box car right behind the locomotive, and that's not derailing at all, that's making it just fine around all the curves, then I think we've got ourselves a very stable line, and I'm a happy camper. So that's what I did. So now I've spent about the last 3 weeks working on the green line, and as you can see in these photographs, I've completed the base for the green line track. All the risers are set and glued into place, and all the plaster cloth has been laid. So now I'm ready to put on the roadbed on top of the plaster cloth for the green line. I'm going to use the Power Grab product that I've used in the past. I'll lay some of that down on top of the dried plaster cloth, and then I'm going to take simply a putty knife and spread it around. And once I get the Power Grab stuff spread out, I'll lay down the roadbed, but what you're seeing demonstrated here is actually incorrect. This is my first big mistake. What you're seeing me do is place the roadbed down incorrectly. And so I've completed laying the roadbed for the green line, and it sure looks nice, but there's one really big problem. And this is why you have to have at least 2 cups of coffee early in the morning if you're working on your train. I learned that I laid the entire roadbed upside down. And at first I thought, well, is there such a thing as laying it upside down? And then, of course, I learned that there is. If you look at the photograph on the package of Roadbed here from Woodland Scenics, you can see that the right side up of the roadbed has got beveled edges. And in reality, roadbed has got beveled edges to help for drainage of water when it rains. I laid it upside down, so as you can see here, it's a smooth side up. That's a problem. And I thought, well, maybe I can take it off, but then I've already glued it down and it's pretty secure. So I think the only way around this for me is to remove all of the old roadbed that I installed incorrectly. I'm going to have to sand down all the risers and the plaster cloth, and then level it out again and apply a new roadbed right side up this time. And you can see the difference here. Upside down, it's very smooth, and there's no beveled edge. Right side up, there's a beveled edge, and it has kind of a tacky surface, which is designed to help keep the track in place. So I've got some work cut out ahead of me, and I'm going to be working on this for a while, I think. My initial plan was to complete all 3 track lines, both the black line, the green line, and the red line, which I still have to work on, within 6 months, and then I would start and work on the scenery, and that would probably keep me busy for about the next 2 to 3 years. So this is a little bit of a setback. It's going to take me some time to correct this, but I'll get it done. I had to remove all of the roadbed that I installed upside down. I had to sand down the risers. I had to replace some of the plaster cloth that I put on the risers, sand everything down again, and then reinstall the roadbed, tack it down, glue it down, and then test run my trains. And although it was quite a bit of extra work due to that mistake that I made, it all worked out well. And you can see the result here. I now have the black line and the green lines running very, very smoothly. So I'm pretty happy with the way it turned out, although it did take me some extra work. So in our next video, you're going to see how we start some of the landscaping. You can see I've started some of the mountains already. Join me next time, and you're going to get more details on how to do that.